There is a bag sitting on a shelf at your local farm supply store right now. It weighs 50 pounds. It costs about $2 to cover 1,000 square feet of lawn. It has been sitting on that shelf, largely untouched, for decades. Not because it does not work, because nobody is running television commercials about it, because there is no repeat purchase built into the business model, because a bag that lasts 2 to 3 years is not a product the fertilizer industry can build a market worth billions of dollars a year around. They sell you something else. And here is the question worth sitting with before we go any further. If you have been feeding your lawn for years, bags of synthetic fertilizer, spring and fall, the full recommended schedule, why does it still look the way it looks? Why are there thin patches in the same places every year? Why does it green up fast and fade just as fast? Why, after everything you have spent, does the neighbor's lawn still look better? The answer almost certainly is not that you need more fertilizer. The answer is that your soil cannot use the fertilizer you are already giving it. And until you fix that, you can pour 100 bags into the ground and the grass will take about 30% of it and lock the rest away from the roots entirely. That is what this video is about. What actually controls whether your lawn can feed itself, why the industry has very little financial interest in telling you, and what a $2 bag of powder does that $40 of synthetic fertilizer cannot. I have been growing food and maintaining soil in my American backyard for over 30 years, after growing up alongside my father's vegetable rows in rural Nagano. My father, Hiroshi, kept a small tin of soil samples on his workbench, one from each section of the field, and he would test a pinch of each before he ever added anything to it. He used to say, "The soil is not empty, it is blocked. Skip that test, and you spend money on a problem you never actually diagnosed." Now, the reason your lawn is struggling, and there is a real irony here, walk into any garden center or hardware store in spring. The display at the front will be fertilizer. Bags stacked to the ceiling, high nitrogen blends, slow-release pellets, liquid concentrates, seasonal formulas with different numbers on the front. The industry has trained homeowners to read those 3 numbers, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and to believe that managing those 3 numbers is the whole job. It is not close to the whole job. The single most important number for your lawn is one that almost none of those bags mention. Honestly, just skip the seasonal blend and buy a $15 soil test first. It is your soil's pH. The pH scale runs from 0 to 14. A reading below 7 is acidic. Above 7 is alkaline. Grass grows best in a narrow window somewhere between 6 and 7, with 6.5 being close to ideal for most common lawn species in North America. When your soil pH sits outside that window, something specific happens to the nutrients in the ground. They become chemically bound to soil particles in forms the grass roots cannot absorb. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all of them are affected. The nutrients are physically present. They are not missing. They are locked, and a grass plant sitting on locked nutrients starves regardless of what you add on top. At a soil pH around 5.5, which is common in many American lawns, particularly in areas with heavy rainfall, a lawn captures only a fraction of the nitrogen you apply. The rest is bound, leached, or lost. Correct the pH into the 6 to 7 range, and the grass captures far more of what you give it. You are not getting what you paid for. And the reason is not the fertilizer, the reason is the soil it is landing in. If this is the kind of thing you wish someone had told you years ago, that is what this channel is. One method, once a week, tested for 30 years before I ever say it out loud. Nothing sold to you. Subscribe if you want the next one. Now, the industry and what a soil test actually costs. A basic soil pH test costs between $10 and $15 at most garden centers. The Cooperative Extension Service in your state, run through your state university, funded partly by federal agriculture programs, will often test your soil for free or for a nominal fee of $5 to $10, and they will mail you the results with correction recommendations specific to your region. Homeowner, tested their soil pH before purchasing fertilizer, the majority would discover that correction, not addition, is what their lawn needs. An industry built on annual repeat purchase cannot thrive in that environment. So the soil test is rarely mentioned. The new seasonal blend is always front and center. I am not saying every company in that industry acts with deliberate intent, but the financial structure of the lawn care industry creates a very strong incentive to sell inputs and a very weak incentive to recommend a diagnostic step that might eliminate the need for those inputs. The result is that most homeowners spend years adding to a system that cannot use what they are adding, and they conclude that they simply have a bad lawn. You do not have a bad lawn. You likely have a pH problem, and fixing it costs about $2 per 1,000 square feet. Now, what the powder actually is and what it does in the ground. Agricultural lime. The white powder in the bag, it is calcium carbonate, ground from limestone, and it has been used to correct acidic soil for more than 200 years, long before synthetic fertilizer existed. Long before the lawn care industry existed, in every agricultural tradition that worked with soil chemistry rather than around it. It raises soil pH by neutralizing excess acidity. One standard application to an average home lawn, about 5,000 square feet, costs $8 to $12 total for the material. A single application, properly timed, lasts 2 to 3 years before the soil needs retesting. If your soil tests alkaline rather than acidic, the correction runs the other direction. Elemental sulfur is the material for lowering pH. It works more slowly than lime, 4 to 8 weeks to see full effect, but a similar application rate runs approximately $3 to $5 for a 5,000 square foot lawn. Suchizukuri is the Japanese term for soil making, the practice of working with soil as a living system rather than a medium you add things to. The lime application is soil making. The fertilizer bag is not. One builds something that lasts, the other creates a dependency that must be serviced every season. That is the difference you want. Now, the two mistakes, because this does fail for some people and the reason is specific. The first mistake is applying without testing. Lime raises pH. If your soil is already at or above 7, adding lime pushes it further alkaline and locks out iron and manganese. Your lawn develops yellow patches, iron chlorosis, and looks worse than it did before. The lime is not the problem. Skipping the test is the problem. Apply nothing before you know the number. The second mistake is timing. Lime needs moisture and time to work its way into the soil profile. The correct window for most regions is early fall, ideally 4 to 6 weeks before the ground freezes. Fall rain carries the lime into the root zone. By spring, the pH correction is in place and the grass responds to its first growing season with fully available nutrients. A summer application on dry, compacted soil may sit on the surface for months and deliver almost no benefit. 3 steps. Test the soil. Identify whether you need lime for acidity or sulfur for alkalinity. Apply in early fall before significant rain. Retest at the 60-day mark the following spring. The entire cost for a 5,000 square foot lawn is between $15 and $25, including the test. Now, the application itself, and the one thing the bag will not tell you clearly. Use a broadcast spreader if you have one. A basic walk-behind model costs about $25 and will serve you for 20 years. Set it to the rate on the lime bag for your square footage, walk your rows in one direction, then crosswalk at 90 degrees for even coverage. You should see a faint white dusting on the grass surface. Water it in lightly if no rain is coming within 48 hours. That is the whole process. It takes about 40 minutes for a standard suburban lawn. Tell me in the comments what your soil pH test comes back at. I want to know whether you test acidic or alkaline and what region you are in. I read every single one. Now, the part almost nobody talks about, and this is where the real change happens. When soil pH is corrected into the 6 to 6.5 range, something begins to occur beneath the surface that no fertilizer bag can replicate or replace. The microbial community in the soil wakes up. Beneficial soil bacteria operate within a narrow pH band. Below 5.5, many of them go dormant or die. Mycorrhizal fungi, the thread-like structures that extend a grass plant's root system by 10 to 100 times its actual size, drawing water and nutrients from soil the roots themselves cannot reach, are also pH sensitive. They are suppressed in highly acidic conditions and they thrive when pH returns to the 6 to 7 window. Earthworms, which are the most reliable indicator of healthy soil biology, cannot survive in soil below pH 5. Their castings, the material they process and deposit, are one of the most nutrient-dense natural fertilizers available. Healthy earthworm population in a 5,000 square foot lawn can turn over a significant volume of soil every year. A synthetic fertilizer dependent lawn suppresses all of this. High nitrogen synthetic inputs are salts. Applied repeatedly, they draw moisture out of the microbial layer in the top inch of soil and reduce microbial diversity over time. The lawn becomes dependent on continued chemical feeding because the biology that would have fed it naturally has been diminished. Correct the pH once. Leave the soil alone. Within one growing season, bacterial populations begin to recover. Within 2 seasons, mycorrhizal networks begin to reestablish. The organic matter in the soil, the dead grass clippings, the old thatch, the decomposed material sitting just below the surface, begins to break down and release nitrogen naturally. The lawn begins to feed itself. Soil biologists have found that pH correction on acidic, fertilizer-dependent lawns tends to bring a noticeable rebound in soil biological activity within about a year. The biology does the work that the bags were pretending to do. Restore the living system. Do not feed around it. Walk away from the bag until the biology is back. Now, what the full protocol looks like and what it costs in total. In September or early October, collect a soil sample. Dig 3 inches down in 5 or 6 different spots across your lawn. Mix the samples together in a clean container and take or mail the combined sample to your county extension office. Or use a home pH test kit. Cost free to $15. Review the result. If pH is below 6, you need lime. Calculate your square footage. 1,000 square feet, plan on 40 to 50 pounds of pelletized lime or 20 to 30 pounds of finely ground lime. Apply with a spreader before the first significant rain. Cost $8 to $12 for a 5,000 square foot lawn. If pH is above 7, substitute elemental sulfur at the rate on the package for your square footage. Apply the same way, but plan for a longer correction window. Cost approximately $10 to $18 for 5,000 square feet. Do not fertilize in the same application window. Give the pH correction 60 days to work before you evaluate whether any input is needed at all. Retest in spring. At that point, if the grass is still showing deficiency, a single light application of organic fertilizer, blood meal or a balanced granular, will now deliver its full benefit into corrected soil. Most lawns, after a full growing season on corrected pH, will not need it. Total cost for the complete protocol, $15 to $25. One afternoon in fall, 40 minutes in spring to retest. Now, one honest note about what this will not do. Lime correction does not work overnight. If your lawn is heavily compacted, the lime may take longer to penetrate the root zone. Before application, using a core aerator, which can be rented for about $40 for a half day, significantly accelerates lime absorption. If you have heavy clay soil, the pH shift will take longer and may require a second application in the second fall. And if your lawn has severe thatch, more than 3/4 of an inch of accumulated dead material, the lime will not reach the soil surface effectively until the thatch is addressed. This method solves a real and common problem. It does not solve all problems, but for the majority of struggling American lawns, the limiting factor is pH and the biology it suppresses, not the absence of more nitrogen. The fertilizer in your garage is not wasted. Once the soil pH is corrected, What remains in that bag will be significantly more effective. Now, 2 safety points, and I will not skip them. Lime dust and elemental sulfur powder are fine particulates. Wear a dust mask when loading the spreader, and when applying on a dry day, breathing either in quantity irritates the lungs, and with lime, it can irritate the eyes as well. A pair of safety glasses and work gloves cost about $4 at any hardware store and are worth putting on. Keep children and pets off the treated lawn until the first rain has worked the material into the surface, or until you have watered it in yourself. For a standard home lawn application, there is no chemical hazard beyond dust. But the dust is real and you should not ignore it. You do reach for fertilizer in spring. Apply it lightly, no more than 1 pound of actual nitrogen per 1,000 square feet after the pH correction has had a full season to take hold. That single application on corrected soil with recovering biology will outperform 4 applications on imbalanced soil. That bag of fertilizer becomes a supplement, not a substitute. Used once, thoughtfully, rather than on a schedule designed to move product off a shelf, the nutrients your lawn needs are almost certainly already in the ground. The right answer is usually cheaper, simpler, and older than the thing being sold to you. Test the soil this fall. Let the number tell you what to do. Next time, I am going to show you how to read your lawn's color, texture, and growth pattern the way my father read his rows in Nagano. Diagnostic language that tells you exactly what the soil needs before a single symptom becomes a crisis.